I used to think peace was a permanent thing. You move out of the city, buy yourself a patch of quiet land, and tell yourself you've escaped the noise. But sometimes the loudest sound in the world isn't traffic or sirens. It's a neighbor who can't stand not being in charge. That's how this whole mess started. One cold morning, I heard the snap of metal outside. Not the wind, not an animal. It was deliberate, sharp, the kind of sound that comes from bolt cutters meeting steel. I stepped out onto the porch, coffee still steaming in my hand, and saw her crouched near the fence. Her name was Diane. Yoga pants, oversized sunglasses, that air of suburban authority you can't buy. You just have to be born believing you deserve. She straightened up, smiled like we were old friends, and said, "Oh good, you're up. You really shouldn't have this electric fence without HOA approval." I laughed into my mug. "It's not electric," I told her. "It's reinforced mesh. Keeps coyotes out." She scoffed, tapping her phone. "Coyotes? This is a residential area. You're a liability waiting to happen." I reminded her the fence was fully within my property line. Survey stakes, county record, everything. She smirked. "Well, we'll see about that," she said, snipping one last strand before walking off. Perfume trailing behind like gasoline. I stared at the ragged gap she'd left, right where the slope curved toward my pond. By noon, she'd already emailed the HOA, the sheriff, and the mayor, accusing me of erecting an unauthorized barrier. I knew because she CC'd me. Her whole argument hinged on a fake clause she'd apparently drafted herself. I ignored it, thinking she'd get bored. I was wrong. 2 days later, I found tire tracks in the mud near the fence. Same pattern as her Lexus, wide treads, to clean for after. I checked my cameras. Sure enough, there she was, easing her pearl-white SUV through the gap she'd cut, clipboard in hand, inspecting like she was the county inspector general. She even leaned out of the window to snap photos. When she reversed, one tire slipped near the pond, but she made it out. I patched the fence that afternoon. Only this time, I didn't use wire. I used reinforced steel posts, sunk deep, invisible, under gravel mat, legal and unbreakable. Then I mounted a solar motion light pointed straight at the pond. I figured if she came back, at least she'd leave with a tan. 3 mornings later, I saw her again, marching up the driveway, waving papers. "You're in violation of Section 14B, she said. Badge clipped to her blouse, like she was deputized by God himself. I asked to see the section. She flipped the paper, hesitated, then muttered, "It's pending approval." I said, "So not real, then." She turned, huffed, and left. That night, my cameras caught her again. Same bolt cutters, same gloves, headlamp this time. She managed to clip a few wires before the new post stopped her cold. The next morning, there was an HOA notice taped to my mailbox. Failure to comply will result in community fines. No signature, no authority, just intimidation. Dressed and let her head. I sent the footage to the sheriff's office, but didn't press charges yet. I wanted her to think she was winning. Then came the rain. A whole weekend of it, steady, heavy, turning the clay behind the fence into soup. Monday morning, I was working from home when I heard the low hum of her Lexus again. She'd driven straight up the muddy incline, ignoring every private property sign. I watched from my porch as the tires spun, caught and clawed their way to the top. She got out, umbrella snapping in the wind, smirking like she'd won. Then I saw it, the ground shifting under her. One rear tire sank. She didn't notice. The other followed, and in seconds, gravity took over. The Lexus slid sideways, slow at first, then faster. Mud spraying like a geyser. I shouted, but it was too late. The whole SUV tilted, groaned, and rolled into the pond. The splash echoed across the property. Water, mud, algae, everywhere. She scrambled out, dripping, furious. "This is your fault," she screamed. "You trapped me," I said. "You cut the fence, Diane." Gravity just followed orders. She called the sheriff. 10 minutes later, Deputy Ward showed up. She greeted him like an old friend. He'd handled her noise complaints before, but this time he wasn't buying it. He watched the footage, then looked at her. "Ma'am, this pond is on his property," she sputtered. "But the fence was meant to keep people out," he said, "including you." She threatened lawsuits, emotional distress, divine retribution, the whole HOA apocalypse. He handed her his card and told her to call her insurance. When he left, the silence that followed was perfect. Just rain dripping off the eaves, her luxury SUV half submerged like a warning sign. By noon the next day, half the neighborhood knew. Someone filmed the tow truck pulling her Lexus out. Algae hanging like party streamers. The clip hit Facebook with the caption, "HOA Safety Director meets her match." She went silent online. The HOA suspended her pending review. I almost felt bad. Almost, but I knew better. Diane wasn't the type to lose gracefully. Sure enough, a week later, she resurfaced. Not in person, but on the local news. The segment called her a victim of neighborhood harassment. My property, my fence, my pond, all shown on camera, while her voice trembled about hostile surveillance. She sat there in a white sweater, crying about wanting peace. I stood in my living room watching the lies stack like bricks. "He has cameras pointed at my house," she said. "I feel unsafe." What she didn't mention was that my cameras pointed inward, protecting me from her. By morning, the narrative had flipped, neighbors whispered. HOA chat filled with maybe tone it down comments. Even Tom, the HOA president, called me. "I know it's nonsense," he said, "but the optics are bad." I laughed. "Optics? She's the one who made a pawn drive-through." He sighed. "Just stay calm." Reporters started parking outside my gate. They weren't hostile, just hungry for sound bites. I told them, no comment. Everything's with the sheriff. They left bored. But Diane wasn't done. That night, I got an email from Community Accountability Initiative. Subject, "Your Reckoning." Attached were telephoto shots of me in my yard. She'd turned surveillance into a sport. I sent them to Deputy Ward. He traced the metadata taken from her street. He said, "Same coordinates." Then came the mediation notice, official letterhead this time. She'd filed for civil mediation claiming harassment. I showed up with every document I had. Videos, HOA, notices, times. She arrived late, sunglasses on indoors, pretending not to see me. "This man has targeted me for months," she said. "He turned my trauma into entertainment." The mediator looked exhausted before we even began. I handed over my binder. "Here's her cutting my fence. Here's her on my property. Here's her fake notices. And here's her car in my pond." Silence. The mediator skimmed, sighed, then said gently, "Mrs. Blackwell, I recommend you withdraw this. It will not go in your favor." She slammed her hands on the table. "You're all against me," then stormed out. I wish that had been the end. But 2 nights later, a van parked outside my property for nearly an hour. No plates, 2 figures taking pictures. When they left, a sign was taped to my fence. "Community accountability is coming." By morning, those words were all over the neighborhood, spray-painted, hashtagged, whispered. A social media campaign had begun. Accounts called Justice for Diane and Truth in Maple Hollow flooded local groups with edited photos of my property, accusing me of pollution and harassment. It was absurd, but people love drama more than facts. The HOA imploded. Half the board quit. Tom called me one night, sounding defeated. "She's trying to burn it all down," he said. "Half the neighbors think you're the villain now." I told them I didn't care about optics anymore. Then came the emergency HOA meeting. I wasn't going to attend, but curiosity won. The clubhouse smelled like coffee and panic. Diane stood at the front in a beige suit like a senator addressing Congress. Her hair, still recovering from the pond, was curled aggressively. "We're introducing new compliance measures," she announced. "All fences, cameras, and lights will require inspection." I raised my hand. "Because you drove into a pond, I need permission for lighting." Laughter rippled through the room. She glared daggers. "Because your setup creates hostility," she said. "We're neighbors, not prison wardens." Tom cleared his throat. "Actually, county records show his property isn't under HOA jurisdiction." The room went silent. Diane froze. "That can't be right." "It is," he said, 15 feet outside the covenant line. Her face cracked like plaster. I thought that might humble her. It didn't. 2 days later, bright orange survey flags appeared along my fence. Fake property review. Then a real county inspector showed up apologizing. "We got a report of visual obstruction," he said. "Someone claims your fence blocks community sidelines." He walked the perimeter, frowned, and said, "This is compliant. Whoever filed this doesn't understand the code." I showed him camera footage of her cutting it. He nearly spit out his coffee. "I'll file this as false reporting," he said. That evening, she went live on Facebook, standing by the pond, yelling into her phone about toxic neighbors endangering children. I stepped into frame. "You're trespassing again." Diane, her viewers, loved it. Comments flew by. "Careful, or you'll park there again." She snapped her phone shut and stomped away. 2 nights later, my fence was vandalized. Red paint spelling HOA scum. Drain pipe sliced open. I cleaned it up. Posted security footage online with cheerful elevator music. Title: Safety Director versus Gravity. It went viral again. HOA suspended her for good, but she still had allies. That same night, my camera caught her husband sneaking into my shed. He bolted when I hit the spotlight. She showed up the next morning crying to cops, waving screenshots of the meme video. The officer asked, "Ma'am, did he tag you?" She said, "No, but everyone knows it's me." He smiled politely. "That's not illegal." She turned red, screamed about conspiracies, and stormed off. After that, she went quiet. A week passed. No sightings, no emails. Then, at dawn, a truck dropped a giant dumpster in front of my gate. Cleanup order by Diane Blackwell, the driver said. 2 more trucks arrived, one with gravel, one with cement. Fraught by delivery. Clay showed up, shaking his head. She's really lost it. He said he was halfway through the report when his radio cracked. Possible vehicle submerged. Lakeview Drive. That was her address. We got there fast. Glenn's sedan nose down in her decorative pond. They pulled him out, alive, coughing. Diane stood on the porch in her robe, frozen. That image stuck with me. The woman who tried to control everything, now watching her world literally sink, but she didn't stop. A week later, I got a zoning notice. Unauthorized environmental modification filed by her. The pond had existed since the 60s. The county inspector, Bellamy, rolled his eyes. You're the 3rd person she's filed against this year, he said. He came out, took photos, and laughed. This pond's historical. She's shooting herself in the foot. I sent the report to the HOA with the subject. She responded with a wall of text accusing me of weaponizing government. Then came the fake inspection team. A half-dozen people in vests marching along my fence like an expedition. Diane in the middle, barking orders. I filmed from the porch. That night, the video hit social media. Local HOA explores mythical fence line. Viral again. She retaliated with a cease and desist letter, misspelled header. No signature law firm address that turned out to be a vape shop. I forwarded it to the real HOA attorney. They confirmed it was fake. She drafted it herself. That stun alone could have been a crime. Next came the flyers. Grainy night shots of my property. Captions like security-obsessed neighbor threatens safety. I kept one and framed it in my garage. Play stopped by again. You want to press charges this time? He asked. I said, not yet. Let her dig. And she did. My cameras caught her by the pond again at midnight, flashlight in hand, dropping something shiny in the water. I stepped out. Lose something? I asked. She jumped, nearly slipped. I'm checking for contamination, she snapped. With what? Your manicure kit. She cursed and left. 2 days later, my irrigation line was damaged. I filed charges. The sheriff's office confirmed trespassing and property damage. For once, there were consequences. Small fines, but they mattered. She even dragged her husband into it, co-signing her complaints. He looked like a ghost of himself, hollow-eyed, nodding through her madness. When the new county inspector, Alvarez, arrived for an environmental evaluation, Diane tried to play gracious host, standing by her driveway in a sun hat, like it was a press conference. Alvarez ignored her, took samples, examined everything, found nothing wrong. That same week, a blog published an article titled, Local Residents Fight for Clean Water. The photo, her Lexus in my pond, cropped to hide the logo. I laughed until I cried. Then I found something bigger. The pond wasn't just legal, it was protected. Built in 1962 as a storm retention basin. I printed the proof, taped a copy to the fence facing her house. The next morning, she was tearing it down. That's county documentation, I said. You can't post government papers, she yelled. You mean factual? I asked. She flushed red. You're humiliating me. And there it was. The truth, it wasn't about land or rules. It was about pride. She couldn't stand being laughed at. She doubled down, leaking rumors to blogs about unlicensed wiring near water. The electrical inspector arrived, checked the solar lights, and laughed. "Textbook install," he said. "She's wasting taxpayer time." I sent his clearance letter to the same blog. They updated with a note. "No violations found." Her credibility collapsed. Glenn finally broke. One night, I heard him outside, muttering into his phone. "She won't stop. If she goes down, she's taking everyone with her." The next morning, a letter appeared in my mailbox, shaky handwriting. "I'm sorry for everything. She won't listen anymore. Please don't involve me further." That was the end for him, but not for her. She hired contractors to beautify the green space beside my property, except the HOA no longer existed. She faked authorization, crushed my drainage pipes in the process. The sheriff cited her for reckless property damage. That night, my cameras caught her sitting in her car by the pond, headlights off, just staring. Then she laughed, a hollow, bitter sound that gave me chills. When people like her laugh at rock bottom, it means they found a new target. Sure enough, 3 days later, the sheriff's department raided her house. They traced a hidden camera found under my porch to her purchase record. Inside her attic, they found 2 more, all active, one hidden in a birdhouse aimed directly at my porch. She tried to claim community safety, but timestamps proved otherwise. She was arrested for unlawful surveillance and falsifying reports. When the footage hit the internet, it went viral. HOA queen caught spying. The HOA dissolved completely. Tom came by looking exhausted. "We're done," he said. "No more enforcement, no committees." "Maybe that's for the best," I nodded. For the first time, the air felt lighter. Karen Diane tried one last move, a lawsuit against the county, claiming emotional distress and bias against HOA officials. It fizzled out fast. Her lawyer quit. Her nonprofit vanished. Her name disappeared from public record. Months later, I sold the rights to my footage for a documentary called Neighborhood Wars. The episode aired, showing everything from her fake notices to the Lexus sinking. The truth finally permanent. Now the pond's clear again. The reeds have grown back. The fence stands straight and quiet. Sometimes at night, I sit on the dock with a drink, listening to frogs instead of arguments. People still talk about her, the car, the cameras, the madness. But I don't add to it. I just say that pond's peaceful now. It's earned its quiet because in the end she built her own cage out of rules, pride, and fear. And I just built a fence. So tell me, if it were you, would you have fought back or walked away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes, in neighborhoods like this, the difference between justice and chaos is just one stubborn person willing to stand there.